Is the S25 Ultra a better phone than the 16 Pro Max? Well, from the new rounded design with slimmer display bezels all the way up to the camera upgrades and insanely good Gemini AI features that laugh in the face of Apple intelligence, yes, but it's definitely a bit complicated. Now, it's been about 2 months with the S25 Ultra as I've tested and compared it to my experience with the iPhone 16 Pro Max. And before we jump in, I do want to admit that I am biased towards the iPhone since I've been an iPhone user since the iPhone 6, which makes it really difficult to admit that the S25 Ultra is a better phone. But honestly, I have to give credit where credit is due. And that is especially true with the first category that I want to get into, and that is, of course, comparing the artificial intelligence features. As you guys have probably heard all over the internet, Apple Intelligence has completely failed. Apple removed some of their ads from the web. It's been an absolute fail, especially since I've been using this and testing the S25 Ultra's Gemini AI features for the last couple of months, and it has been absolutely mind-blowing. We actually made a video testing and comparing the artificial intelligence features, and this completely blew the iPhone out of the water. The main example was actually photo editing, asking Gemini to essentially detect something and remove it and filling it with AI, and it has been shocking how well it has worked. Essentially everything that we could throw at it, it knocked it out of the park compared to the iPhone, which butchered basically every single test. But the worst part of all for the iPhone is Siri. It still sucks. Yeah, we have the really cool Siri animation, but it's basically clickbait because it works like trash. For example, you can ask it to do something like summarize a YouTube video, and it does nothing but literally open the YouTube app. This thing, the S25 Ultra, will use Gemini to give you a full written out summary, then gave me a link to the video with a thumbnail. Absolutely mind-blowing. This thing does not do any of that. The S25 Ultra is a massive winner, and it's the biggest point after 2 months that it embarrasses the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Now let's get into the second category, which is performance. Now, of course, we have the A18 Pro chip, which is super impressive, very efficient. I've been liking it a lot since it keeps the phone really cool compared to before. Huge props to Apple, but the Snapdragon 8 Elite is actually a really good update. For the first time ever, it beats the iPhone in terms of multi-core CPU performance and also GPU. Now, of course, the single core is not as fast, but it's the closest that it's ever been. And honestly, using them both in the hands for the last 2 months, it feels just as snappy. There's no delays, no issues like I used to have years ago. It works so nicely and it's more reliable, especially with the new One UI updates. I have not seen a more polished and snappy experience with a Samsung phone until now, especially with 12 gigs of RAM to make sure that you get better multitasking versus 8 gigs on the iPhone. So with that said, the performance is finally on par with the iPhone in multiple ways. Now, one of those ways is actually gaming. Of course, I did some testing with Call of Duty Mobile, but that is a very easy to run game. So with that said, I want to refer over to Dame Tech, who has tested these two extensively, and he is actually very impressed with the Snapdragon 8 Elite because it has finally caught up to the iPhone in terms of FPS, even slightly beating it in the game Wuthering Waves. However, at the drawback of higher power consumption and higher temps while displaying lower resolution, but hey, it did finally caught up in terms of performance, so that gives me confidence in Snapdragon with the future updates that we should be seeing soon. Now, moving over to the third category I want to talk about, that is display differences. And honestly, guys, the Samsung display is better. It's better in multiple ways. Probably my most favorite way is the new Gorilla Glass Armor 2, which is basically their anti-reflectivity glass or layer, whatever they have. It is absolutely insanely good. It makes it so much easier to see what's on the screen. Like, look at this glare comparison. The iPhone is like purely reflecting these lights. You can't see nothing on the display. The Samsung somehow gets rid of it. When you're outside, it's so much easier to read the display because on the iPhone, you just see a bunch of reflections. It is nuts. Also, you have HDR video, like when you're watching YouTube, you get better brightness, better colors, less reflections, deeper blacks. On the Samsung, it looks better, no doubt. Of course, we also have thinner bezels, which are nice and uniform, basically matching what we have on the iPhone. Maybe not as thin, but it looks just as good. And of course, we have this tiny hole punch that is less intrusive than the camera cutout, the dynamic island on the iPhone. Of course, I do love the dynamic island because it's very useful. It's really nice to see timers and all the other things that you have. But in terms of how it looks, this is better. Now for the fourth category, we have the camera differences. And I've gotta say, Samsung has built a better camera than what we have on the iPhone. We looked at some portraits, they're actually starting to look really good. Portrait video improved a lot. We have the 50 megapixel 5x telephoto, which looks amazing. It's such a huge advantage for zoom photos and zoom videos. It looks awesome. Now, of course, the iPhone is still better in terms of recording video, and portrait photos still look better. Cinematic mode video is still better. But when we did our blind camera test, the Samsung won for both Max and Ben. So it's a super impressive camera system, and it's only been getting better over the last couple of months. And finally, for category 5, I want to get into some bonus wins for the Samsung. Like, for example, you have a nice and thin, awesome design, and you still get an S Pen, which is very useful for note-taking. Let's say if you're a businessman, you gotta do some signatures, some invoicing, anything else. And I do wanna mention the speakers, where on the S25 Ultra, the speakers do sound better than the iPhone. So that is another win. Also, the microphones are better on the Samsung, especially when you add the AI noise reduction features. And in terms of which one was a better upgrade compared to the previous version, even though the S25 Ultra didn't really get that many new features, they really did fine-tune some specific things to make it a lot better compared to the 16 Pro Max, which honestly, like right now off the top of my head, I don't even remember a lot of the upgrades that came to this. It feels really similar to the 15 Pro Max, other than the camera control that I honestly hate. With that said, all of those changes and differences, all my thoughts after 2 months, if the software was the same on both of these phones, or if the S25 Ultra could run iOS, the Samsung would be the winner, hands down. I would be using this phone if it could run iOS. And honestly, with Apple Intelligence being such a complete dud, Apple should have just given in and put Gemini into their phone, because that's what Samsung did, and it is a massive, massive upgrade, making it actually useful for the first time in years, especially with those camera editing features, where this is just trash for all of the Apple Intelligence features. But with all that said, I have a really good feeling that the iPhone 17 series is gonna be a massive upgrade. We actually got the dummy models in, the metal ones, which are amazing, and it was so cool to test them out. So watch that video right there and subscribe for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.